Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Disobedient. I'm your host, Peter Arena. With a high-tech career spanning over 25 years, today's guest, Aman Jabbi, was at the forefront of video and camera technology in Silicon Valley. He has co-founded 2 camera startups. If you have a camera in your phone, stream video or movies, he played a role in it. Aman has a bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering and master's in chemistry from BITS in India, a master's in electrical engineering from Penn State University, and studied computer science at Stanford University. He is an avid photographer and private pilot. As a lover of liberty, Aman arrived in the US in 1988 in search of a free society and now resides in Big Fork, Montana. I'm excited to welcome Aman to Disobedient to discuss the seemingly breakneck rate of change we are surrounded by, immersed in, as the world races toward what is variously referred to as the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Great Reset, digital technocracy, the singularity, et cetera, et cetera. We're fortunate enough to have him run through with us today a PowerPoint presentation that he has created that helps shed light on this complex and daunting subject of digital surveillance and big data. Aman Jabbi, welcome to Disobedient.
Thanks, Peter, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, I think we should just set right into it. I think we're going to share a screen here, and unless you wanted to talk about anything else prior to that.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So do you see the screen up?
I do.
Okay. So the title of my talk is Facial Recognition. Is it a digital identity or is it about a digital dictatorship? And what I'm going to do is to try and keep it very simple. It's a complex subject. What I'm going to do is introduce what is facial recognition, how it has been sold to us as a society. From there, I'll kind of show some visuals and discuss how cameras are being installed all over the world and how cameras and social credit scores are being used in China to give context on what's coming here or what is already here in the West. From there, we'll kind of switch over to, talking about specifically the digital identity and how it relates to a new financial system and how it's going to be used to control human beings in society. And from there, I'm going to show you what's happening locally in Northwest Montana, and pretty much it'll be what's happening everywhere in the country, in the United States. And in fact, the cities are even in a worse situation. And then I can discuss what I've been trying to do in Montana and how much success I have been able to make or not. And we can talk about solutions locally after that. So I'm going to start my presentation now.
Excellent.
So how does facial recognition work? There is, if you have an Android or an iPhone, typically there's a 3D camera inside the front of your phone, and it projects an invisible pattern of light onto your face. And that pattern gets distorted, and the distortions from that pattern are captured by an IR infrared camera. And then that is uniquely determines a fingerprint of your face and then matches it to what's stored on the phone. If you're outside, external facial recognition cameras will use a similar, a fingerprint of your face and compare it to millions of images in seconds in order to identify that it's you. So that's how facial recognition works. And obviously the benefits that have been sold to us, are basically the carrots. We're given carrots in technology. So we've been given carrots over the last 20, 25 years with, subsidized phones, cheap computers and stuff. And it's usually for our convenience. And so is facial recognition technology on our phones. It unlocks our phone. We don't have to type in any numbers. And it's also for your safety and security. It's to catch the bad guys. And, there's pressure from, governments to go and allow facial recognition technology for the feds, for the local police force, for the CIA and FBI in order to catch the bad guys. And so that's how they are ushering it in, right? But by the time we are halfway or even 70% into the presentation, you will see that the sticks are coming. And these sticks are going to be worse than an Orwellian society from 1984. So everyone should be very aware what's happening in their, in their towns and neighborhoods with respect to the installations that I'm going to show you soon. So in China, Big Brother has already met big data, and facial recognition is used to directly control people, and that is through a social credit system. And I was in China just 2.5 years ago in 2019 fall, and it's unbelievable how many cameras and sensors are installed at every intersection, every pole, inside and inside buildings, outside on the streets. There are license plate readers, there are lane detection cameras, there are people counting cameras, there are face recognition cameras. There is not a single place you're not being watched. And here's an example, in a railway station or a subway station, the cameras are identifying people and they are, logging where you are, who you are with, and everything else. So they already have an app in China for the last few years where they have the social credit score. And this directly controls your behavior and compliance and how the government and Big Brother wants you to behave. So if you don't comply or don't behave the way the government wants you to, your social credit will fall. You'll be denied, tickets to the subway. You'll be denied going out to restaurants and whatnot. So this is a way to, make people comply according to a certain way in society. So over the last few years, there have been a lot of documentaries in Western media, and the narrative is always that privacy and freedom are dead in China, right? And also, the social credit system that's already there, it's used to control people. And implicitly, all these documentaries say that we are free in China and that, oh, yeah, we have cameras and we have facial recognition, but it's only to catch criminals and terrorists. And of course, they don't say that all Americans by default are going to be defined as terrorists if they aren't already. In reality, what is not said, there was a report published in February of this year. The number of cameras per capita in the United States is greater than in China. We have 50 million tethered cameras, surveillance cameras tethered to the internet for 330 million people compared to 200 million cameras in China for about 1.4 billion people, right? London in the UK is ranked number 3 in cameras per 1,000 people, right? So the infrastructure is already in place in the West. It's been switched on. It is expanding. And as of 2025, $2 trillion would have been spent in cameras, sensors, and smart city surveillance infrastructure by 2025. It is estimated that by 2030, and that aligns with the Agenda 2030, the number is going to be $7 trillion. So just think about that for 7 billion people. So that is what is happening in the world. So back in March 2020, when COVID was announced and everyone was locked at home and sitting in quarantine, and the television was, blaring all sorts of fear narratives, they were installing cameras and sensors and smart lights and smart poles all around the world. And this report from February has estimated that by the end of 2022, there will be 1 billion tethered surveillance cameras connected to the internet watching human beings. And these are not just surveillance cameras, they are really about data collection, 24/7 real-time data collection. And if you take cameras which are not tethered, which are not surveillance security cameras, it's going to be over 20 billion data collection cameras watching 7 billion people in the world before the end of the year. So take a minute to digest that on what is happening in the world. And this is not to catch, the bad guys. So in the old days, when you had surveillance cameras, you had human eyeballs monitoring the situation in front of screens. But this is so over. Today, what we have is artificial intelligence, smart security guards that are watching us at every moment. They're watching us, they're analyzing us, they're logging, they are learning, and then they are scoring. And this feedback loop goes 24/7 wherever there is a camera. So no humans are necessary anymore. And so if people think that, banning facial recognition in a certain state or a certain city means anything, it does not. So when are we not alone? Pretty much never. You're being tracked everywhere all the time, even in your homes, and I'll show you how. So I'll just switch to something called a panopticon, right? It's a circular prison. And if you notice, all the prison cells are in a circular pattern, and in the center is this tower with the prison guards, so they can see all the cells whenever they want. But today, we are living in a digital panopticon. We are being watched by cameras that have computer vision, and combined with artificial intelligence in the cameras, combined with the cloud, we are being watched, and we are symbolically in this digital prison. While the four walls haven't been erected around us physically, symbolically and practically, we are in this prison, and we are being watched all the time. Our current conversation is being watched. Our face movements are being recorded. Our eyes are being tracked. Our audio is being recorded and analyzed. And this video is also being recorded on Zoom servers. And we are being scored in real time as we speak.
How is it that they're storing all of this data? It seems like there's just heaps and heaps of digital information. How does it get accumulated and stored and or disposed of?
So this is a good question. They don't store all the video. What they do is, these cameras are pretty smart. So they have a processor in the cameras, and it's, they have what they call edge computing. So before the relevant data is sent to the cloud, the videos and images are analyzed initially on the camera. And so what they'll do is, they don't have to send every frame. Like, for instance, video is at 30 frames per second. They don't have to send every frame. All they have to do is send the key elements of that video. So they know who it is with the facial recognition. So they'll send my name. They'll send Peter's name. They'll send timestamps. They'll send key information in text or in some sub images, which are relevant, which they want to, record and score later on a blockchain. So that's how they do it. So you don't need that much data. In fact, for a typical video stream, let's say a video stream is 1 gigabyte, you need only about 1,000th of that to get all the relevant information stored in the cloud and then onto a blockchain. Okay, so I'll continue. So in the last, 5 or 6 years, there was this terminology, the Internet of Eyes, that was making the rounds of venture capital. And literally, I was kind of scratching my head, why are they even using this term? But everything is piecing together over the last few years. And here you'll see, pictures of, things that I've captured or, pulled out from the web of cameras everywhere that they are watching you. Traffic intersection. There are autonomous driving cars. Regular, modern cars have between 8 and 16 cameras. A high-end car has that many cameras, both looking inside and outside. You have face recognition cameras on streets. You have cameras in space. You have drone cameras. You have license plate readers. You have cameras looking at you from inside your car, doing face recognition. You have cameras at airports and subway station, just name it, in your office building. So the Internet of Eyes is really, very telling. And even at home, you are not in a private zone. Anybody who's using technologies from any of these companies, they're all collecting data. And whenever your devices are on, they have the ability to watch you, watch your face, watch your emotions, log you. And so if you think your camera is off, most likely it isn't. You're being recorded, or at least aspects of you are being recorded and then sent to the cloud and onto a blockchain. So be careful of what technologies you sign on with. Even if you have a Ring camera for your, home security, that Ring camera is not only doing face recognition and identification of every human being who enters your house, learning about everybody's habits, it's also tracking all your devices at home on a wireless mesh network. So it can track the location and movement of all devices which are on your Wi-Fi system. And I'm going to make a slight switch to, these smart lights and the smart city grid. If people must have noticed that these LED lights and these poles are coming up all around the world. Even in Northwest Montana, it's on hyperdrive in the last, 6 to 8 months. And I live in a place which is, surrounded by mountains and forests. And the closest town is 30 minutes away, and they have hundreds and hundreds of these lights. And it's in a beautiful valley surrounded by mountains. 2 years ago, when I came here, there was nothing. We had really beautiful dark nights in the valley. Right. So these are basically what, are known as smart poles and smart lights. These are part of the smart city infrastructure. They are all wirelessly communicating with each other and to other wireless devices near you. They are host to all sorts of sensors, noise sensors, cameras. They will have loudspeakers to give instructions. They will eventually have LED screens to give people instructions. Some of these lights on top are drone chargers. So they're drone charging stations. So that, in the future, we are going to have aerial police with drones, which will keep getting charged every 30 to 45 minutes on top of these street lights. And we are going to be watched with drone cameras also. So these are not just lights for environmental purposes. They are being sold to the whole world and to cities and municipalities that it's for energy conservation, because LED lights typically have 40 to 60% less, consume less energy than, their alternatives, which are HID or high power, low power, so these sodium lamps, low pressure and high pressure sodium lamps. And if you look at this is a town I just drove last weekend. It's a population of 2,000 people, and I counted over 100 lights within a mile. Actually, 6 months ago, there were 0 lights. So 0 lights means there was no energy consumed by any street lights. And now they've put hundreds of lights to reduce 50% energy, compared to these sodium lights. So one has to really ask questions on why they're doing this. And then I started digging deeper into these LED lights. And I noticed that I think it was Department of Defense or DARPA, they had funded a project back in 2007. It's a company called Optical Systems, OSI, I think it was called, Optical Systems Innovation or something. And they were funded to build this LED capacitator. They're also known as puke rays or puke guns. So what they do is that they can beam, certain frequencies of light with high intensity at people. And by the time your eyes even adjust or focus on that light, they'll change the frequencies, and they can do this rapidly, thousands of times a second. And this will cause intracranial damage. It can cause spinal damage. It can obviously blind you, make you vomit, and make you sick. So these are really weapons. The picture on the right is some people from Canada sent me this picture that they're already going up in cities in Canada. So one has to be really careful on accepting these LED streetlights and, raise awareness around you what's coming. They're basically installing weapons around every city, every town, every country in the world. And these are going to be used against humanity. And they've started turning them on. So I've kind of talked about, the surveillance infrastructure, what is face recognition, talked a little bit about the street lights. Now I'm going to talk about the digital identity, and you'll start seeing how this digital identity ties into the whole thing and also to other events that are taking place in the world. So the World Economic Forum, they published a paper about 2.5 years ago, and I saw this picture and things started to kind of fall in place immediately. So they want to have a digital identity, and they call it a new chapter in the social contract. It's a social contract that I don't think any human being signed up for it. No country has signed up for it, but they are planting it on everybody. And they want every person, everything, every device, and every entity in the world to have a digital identity. They're going as far as having digital IDs on trees and crops. So anytime you want to access, say, healthcare or food, or you want to travel, you want to do e-commerce, you want to log into your internet and go to a social platform, whatever activity you want to do, you need to have a digital identity. And how will that identity be authenticated? It'll be done through your face, because facial recognition is the simplest and most non-invasive form of biometric authentication. And this face recognition will unlock whatever access you need. However, it's really key to understand that your face and face recognition and identity will be linked to a new type of financial system. And that financial system will have three components that I have been able to uncover. One's going to be carbon credits, your social score, we talked about that, and then your status with respect to injections and boosters. And so this is going to be a new financial system that's going to be all about behavior and compliance. And it's going to be a digital currency. It's going to be what they are calling it a central banking digital currency. It may be used with different names in different countries to start with. But everybody needs to understand that what is being built through facial recognition and your digital identity is really a digital prison. Because by default, you'll always be in this prison. And in order to do anything in life, to access anything in life, you will have to unlock that access through your face, which is linked with a highly toxic and compliance-based financial system.
I just want to interrupt here, whether it's intentional or not. It almost, with this circular arrangement, is reminiscent of that panopticon setup.
Precisely. It's basically telling us you're going to be in this digital prison. And whenever you want to kind of step out of that prison, you need permission through your face, and your face needs to have enough credits through your behavior and compliance. So it's a very telling diagram that they made. So how is this going to be actually implemented? In the world of cybersecurity, there's a protocol called Zero Trust. And so you'll see ZT, and sometimes you'll see ZTNA, which is Zero Trust Network Access. So by default, we are moving, there's a paradigm shift from implicit allow to default deny. And so for instance, in today's world, when we log into the internet, we put in our password, and once we are in, we can pretty much access most of our applications or web browsers and play video games, whatever you want to do. However, the new form of zero trust protocols is going to be a default deny. That means by default, we don't trust you, and we need to be always in real time authenticating you and what you're doing. So they are actually going to now, you have to identify yourself through your face and a camera initially when you get in. Then for each application, again, you have to go through facial recognition and digital identity authentication. If you're typing an email, they are going to still always assume that you're going to breach the system. So they want to then be capturing every keystroke, every mouse movement, as well as your face in real time. So there's going to be no privacy left. Anytime we are having a video conversation, it's going to be always going through this system. There's going to be no concept of a secure HTTP protocol. They're going to remove HTTPS completely. So it's an inverted prison. You may be walking around and there may not be four walls around you, but you have to keep unlocking everything all the time. And so this is the world we are going to be entering. And I'll give you an example of how zero trust is going to be used for, say, shopping, right? So all the shops with all, are going to be replaced initially with all these, digital LED screens and products. Instead of you picking up the product from an open shelf, you have to authenticate yourself through your face via facial recognition to open any of these doors. So it's called conditional access. Digital ID is about conditional access. It's already come in many Walgreens around the country have already started this. And there'll be a facial recognition camera there. So if this girl has had too much beef in the first 2 weeks of the month, her carbon credits have likely expired. The door won't open. If she's already bought 2 bottles of orange juice for that month, the door won't open because her sugar credits have expired or whatever. So this is the new, financial system is going to be used to train humans on how to behave with every aspect of their life. And at the heart of this is smart contracts with the digital ID. And smart contracts is really a different way of saying, if something, then something else. So it's a conditional access-based digital currency. So IDaaS, I've just put a hashtag there. There are companies that are built already, and they are doing identity as a service. So every time every human's face is in front of a camera, there's a chain of corporations from identity as a service to cameras, to the cloud, to blockchain and cybersecurity, making money on your face in real time, all the time. So it's a completely new way of monetizing humans also. And one of the things this digital ID will do is a concept called geofencing. So geofencing is really, think of it as an invisible fence or an invisible perimeter built around a human or around a drone, around a robot, beyond which one is not allowed access. And at the heart of this, again, is going to be face recognition and digital identity. And it'll be used to control your access for movement and many other things, right? So where you can travel, where you can drive and how far you can drive, how far you can walk, who you can communicate with, what you can read, what music you can listen to, who you can email, who you can text, who you can receive a text from. Everything is going to be geofenced based on your face, your digital identity, and therefore your compliance and behavior through the CBDCs, central banking digital currency. And I was thinking to myself, how are they going to geofence us walking around? And my belief is, and I'm digging deeper and deeper, but my belief is it's through the weaponized LED lights and our smart cities, because they'll be able to control when they can, literally zap you with the electromagnetic frequencies, either through microwave towers or through the LEDs. I'm working pretty hard on the side to dig deeper into these LED streetlights and what all capabilities they have and what projects have been done over the last 25 years to weaponize them. I've found some information, but I hope to have something before the end of July to make a live presentation. So security and privacy and safety is the Trojan horse, and digital identity is inside the Trojan horse, and that's going to be used to control humanity and full compliance. In schools, they have a system called social and emotional learning, which they've introduced a few years ago everywhere in the United States and possibly across the world. And there's a concept that they want to basically own the kids from cradle to career. And again, digital ID and face recognition is a core piece of this, because they are installing cameras everywhere in schools. There are cameras at home, obviously. And so the artificial intelligence algorithm is always looking at the face of children in analyzing it. They do emotion recognition, facial recognition, gait recognition. That's the stance. And the algorithm can decide whether the parents are, doing a good job or are they neglecting the child for child abuse. So the artificial intelligence algorithm will decide that through cameras and face recognition. And then, of course, if child abuse is detected, then the child protective custody people can come for your children. Other ways of controlling kids and parents' behavior is through a device called a talk pedometer. This is already in the market. And so when parents are talking to their kids about anything, the AI is getting all the audio and analyzing what the parents are saying and will be updating their credit scores accordingly. Here's an LED game platform. It's We Play Smart. They have fisheye cameras in them. They're looking at the face of kids. And based on what the AI senses, based on the face recognition, it can modify things on the screen to control children's behavior. And at the heart of all this is a camera and a digital ID. So if people think that cameras are going up in schools for the safety and security of children, like think twice before you come to that conclusion. It is nothing to do with safety or security. It's to control the behavior of kids, and it's also to monetize behavior of kids. So how are they going to sell and securitize futures markets? There's a concept called human capital index, where the World Economic Forum papers, they have explicitly said humans have very high value. What all can we do to extract value from humans and also from children? And so this is social impact investing and stuff that Cindy and others have talked about extensively. So I won't go into the details, but I'll give an example of, how they're going to manipulate kids with cameras and screens. So they're literally kind of the puppet masters, right? So they can take, for instance, SEL scores from a group of top performers in, say, New York, upstate or whatever. And they can combine them with, pathways and predictive pathways and bet on them. And they are making these groups, they're called prodigy asset groups. So just like, before the 2008 crash, they had all sorts of instruments for mortgage derivatives, and, the bankers and Wall Street was betting on all those. It's going to be very similar to that. And then based on the future results of those kids, they can give themselves, lots and lots of money. They're going to make even more money from the broken children because there's going to be intervention. And then after interventions, they can bet on and predict on predictive places that the children will land. So these are all games that are being played right now. And so the emphasis on social and emotional is on management and control. It's nothing to do with learning or knowledge. And in April, there was an announcement that the World Economic Forum and United Nations has taken over the internet. So the global internet is now going to be governed by multi-stakeholders. And this came on the United States Department of State website. So the future of the internet is going to be by the same people who are doing all this right now. And so it's going to be a zero trust world. And if you don't sign on to the new digital system, to the new central banking digital system, if you don't take your injections, if you don't want carbon credit system, you will not be able to log into the internet in a few quarters from now. I don't know how far this is, but my guess is it's no more than 2 years away. And at the heart of this, again, is going to be your digital identity. Right? So I'll just switch here what's happening in Montana. It's probably the same that's happening in New York, Peter. Cameras and traffic are at traffic intersections. They are being put up in the name of security, as well as they are making the magnetic loops. There are these magnetic loop sensors which usually change the lights. And what they're doing is they're making them fail and then giving free money to Department of Transportation in Montana, saying, hey, we'll put up free cameras for you. So let's use cameras for changing the lights now. Cameras in retails, hospitals, everywhere, and parking lots. There are smart city lights going up on all the major intersections and freeways. There's a study for facial recognition technology in Montana that's been going on now for almost a year. And I've been trying to educate, the Montana state legislators. I've given this presentation to them a few weeks ago, and I've let them know that banning facial recognition technology in Montana is not going to do any good because it's not going to be done by Montana government or Montana, servers. It's all going to be done in the cloud by Amazon and Google and other, tech companies. So it's a meaningless thing. It's a red herring. So if people feel a sense of satisfaction or safety when these things are going on, be careful.
Well, I don't want to interrupt too much here because this is, first of all, this is incredibly daunting. So I'm going to pray that you've got some solutions towards the end here.
I have solutions. I have solutions.
Okay,
but,
so we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
But with regards to this local government application of these sorts of technologies, this is reckoning back to our earlier episode of Disobedient when we were talking to Reese Perry and her struggles with her local government and her school district specifically, and the fact that her little teeny rural school district is being showered with millions and millions of dollars that are coming through this COVID relief fund. But it has all of these strings attached. And
That's
so,
right.
you know, these local governments are starved, and then they're beneficently endowed with millions of dollars from these government funds that effectively have them marching in step with whatever directives. Otherwise, the money gets cut off.
That's right. It's basically bribes coming to all the state and local municipalities. And they take the money, and in exchange, they give up all the ownership of the land and their state and local city rights to the feds. So the money is being printed by the central bankers. It's coming to local governments and state governments who are giving up their rights. And as a result of which, when you go and talk to county commissioners or city councilmen or governors or whoever else, they don't have the power because they've just given up all their power. And so they don't represent the people anymore. I don't believe that in any part of the world today we have representative government. Certainly not at a federal level, but not even at a state or local level.
States, nation states, who have this little appendix of a federal government that serves a very restricted role originally, that has now become this cancerous growth that is now taken over all of the states, and through this sort of bribery and control of the state governments all the way down to these county and municipal levels, is now has them on the government teat, doing whatever its bidding is.
That is correct. In fact, it's interesting you bring that up because just a little less than a month ago, I became a U.S. national and gave up my U.S. citizenship. Wow, awesome! I've started down that process, but I'll be very interested to hear some of your wisdom on how to move forward with it, because I'm personally interested in doing so myself. I got actively involved in studying this and educating myself over the last 10 months or so. After the presentation, we can turn off the recording and I can, give you like interesting pieces of my journey, as well as how you can proceed to educate yourself.
I look forward to it. I'm actually trying desperately to get someone who is representative of this movement to come onto the show, and have not met with much success. So I'm going to keep at that.
I can point you to a few people. I don't know if they'll be willing to come on publicly, because this is.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. Yeah. Is they want to stay under the radar.
It's more of an underground movement. It's an underground movement. Yeah. It's more of an underground movement.
Yeah.
But it's very empowering. So.
All right. Well, please continue.
All right. So I took some pictures over the last, few months. I keep taking pictures, and here are cameras in Flathead Valley. The area I live here around Flathead Lake is known as Flathead Valley. It has only a population of, 130 or 140,000 people in all the towns combined, and in hundreds of square miles. But we see smart city lights, and we see microwave towers hidden inside fake trees on ski slopes, and we see microwave towers all over the place. Walmart, and I went in, and sure enough, there are cameras at every checkout counter. There's 4 face recognition cameras at the foyer. So by the time you enter the store, they have your face footprint, and you're going to be tracked every square foot inside the retail store. And they're all over Costco, Walmart, Best Buy. Just go to any store. In the parking lots, they have these cameras, which are basically a parking lot panopticon with LED lights. This is 5 cameras as you enter another door. So and then every few feet, they have face recognition and other cameras on top tracking you. There's a company called Clearview AI that is pushing hard with all the state law enforcement companies, along with the feds, for being a facial recognition as a service company. End of last year, they had over 10 billion images. Their goal is to have 100 billion facial images in the next 2 years or so. And so every human will be in its database, and they're going to do minority report style predictive policing. And of course, these agencies will be the stakeholders, which is really Big Brother and artificial intelligence. Behind this company was a neocon during the Bush era, Richard Clark, and a big investor in the company is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is also, founder and investor in Palantir, which is a predictive policing software company that's went live a few years ago in New Orleans and recently went live in Santa Clara County in California. So other companies like ID.me, people must have heard of. They are also doing a public-private partnership, trying to work with state governments for benefits and healthcare. So their slogan is "No identity left behind." So you can connect the dots as to who all are driving this agenda. And so they want to have secure digital identity for everybody. And it's in the name of equity and, diversity and inclusivity. But really what they're trying to do is usher in the digital ID for people who have, state benefits, whether it's unemployment or healthcare through the state or social security. So you'll need not only your password, but you'll need your driver's license photographs or your passports. And then you have to take a video selfie, and a combination of all this will unlock your benefits. And this is how they're going to get certain class of people through the digital identity. So everyone needs to be aware that once you accept the digital identity, it's game over for human civilization. So we must say no as a society. A couple of months ago, I was watching a video from the World Economic Forum, and Yuval Harari, who was a professor at the Hebrew University, and he's written a book called Sapiens. He was giving a talk at one of the Davos forums, and he had this slide called the danger formula, where B times C times D is A. B is the biological knowledge that the AI has. C is the compute power, which is all the compute stuff on servers. This is unlimited. And D is the data they have on humans. And once they have this, it's the ability to hack humans. So with respect to data, they want to sensorize everything. So they want to have sensors through cameras and all other sensors that are collecting data on humans. And biological knowledge they're getting through your smartwatches. They're getting some through cameras based on how you walk. They're getting some biological knowledge through your DNA. For all the people who had PCR tests, it was a DNA collection effort. It had nothing to do with testing for a virus. And so when people understand this, you have to know that the more data you give the AI, the more it'll be able to manipulate you and downstream ability to hack humans. So artificial intelligence is the beast. We have no control. It's gone too far ahead. You're right? Artificial algorithms running in the cloud, we have no control over that. And the beast needs food. Data is the food, and data conduit for that AI is the sensors, the cameras, the smart city infrastructure, microwave towers, 5G phones, and cameras in automobiles and LiDARs in automobiles. So the only way to deal with this and starve the beast is to try and minimize the data, which means eliminate the data conduit. And so that's the only way to deal with the situation. Right? So in summary, cameras are used to take a picture of your face, which is face recognition. It directly relates to your digital identity, which is linked to a new financial system, which is about compliance. And once you have that digital ID, we as a human civilization will be in permanent lockdown mode, because we'll be in this paradigm of zero trust. And we'll have to take permission for everything we do all the time. So if you think you're going to be free a few quarters downstream, think again. The private companies, through the guise of private-public partnerships or P3, are putting up all this infrastructure of 5G microwave towers, smart city lights and cameras. They do it incrementally, and they do it at night. Most of the time, people won't even see construction going on in and once you observe this, share this around with people. Let everyone know, raise awareness. And parents in school, take action. If you care about the future of your kids, if you want them to grow up happy, healthy, and as individuals, these cameras are not good for them. They're going to be used to manipulate children and to make money out of children. So go to the schools and have the boards take them down and ask the question, who installed, authorized it, and funded these smart city infrastructures of surveillance and more? And I know I have the answers to that, but I'm trying to go up all the way up to the Attorney General of Montana. In fact, I'll be calling him after our conversation. So I think everybody needs to start screaming at the top of their voices that we did not ask for these monstrosities. We don't want them. And this is going to be the death knell of human civilization. Right? So what is being built around us everywhere in the world, and certainly in the Western countries, are silent weapons that are being pointed at us. At some point in time, the final switches are going to be turned on. Many switches have already started getting turned on. But finally, once all the switches are turned on, it'll be checkmate for humanity. And that concludes my presentation, Peter.
Well, I'm a bit speechless, and that's takes some doing to make me speechless.
Okay.
And one of these facets of this unfolding digital surveillance grid, this AI brain, that I want to understand a little better is its energy demands. And I am of the opinion that we are walking steadily into a much more energy constrained world. I look at things like cryptocurrencies, for instance, and they, as you know, are very energy intensive in the quote unquote mining of the cryptos. And people are up in arms in it because they're like, well, you're resurrecting these coal burning fire plants in my community, and I don't want that. And just so you guys can mine your cryptocurrencies. And so, are we looking at a rollout of a global surveillance technology that is massively dependent upon something that might not be there for it to utilize?
I don't have any proof yet, but I suspect through connecting dots that there are all these narratives about energy, too much energy or energy conservation, which are designed along with the whole climate change, global warming agendas to take us into the wrong direction of thinking. So I personally believe, given the number of servers that companies like Google and Amazon have, like 7 years ago, I think it was announced that Google had reached the 1 million server mark. 1 million servers. They don't care about energy conservation, right? So they don't. So
yeah, it all goes under the wire.
Are we really
Nobody
short
pays
on
attention.
energy?
Yeah,
are we really short
attention.
on energy? Yeah. When they want to use energy, then there's no problem. It's just, I think the narratives is the fear mongering going on so that they can keep pushing their electric vehicle agenda. And this electric vehicles, I haven't talked about that, but once we are at level 5 autonomous driving, which is fully autonomous driving, and once we have electrical vehicles, they'll be one of the perfect ways. They're going to serve multiple purposes. Number one, they are going to be, eyes on wheels. They have LiDAR, radar. They have cameras. The next generation of electric vehicles by 2025 and autonomous vehicles, they're going to have between 16 and 24 cameras. So they are mapping the world in real time. So they are going to aid in the smart city infrastructure in terms of real-time mapping and surveillance. Right? They are also going to be used for geofencing on how far you can travel, because and then the car may not even open if you haven't signed on to the digital identity and you don't have enough credits. So all this electrification is tied to the digitalization. I don't believe there's a lack of energy intuitively. Intuitively, I don't believe we have a dearth of energy in the future.
Fair enough. Well, I wanted to ask another question, and that came up, and that is, humans are very good at thwarting the efforts of the powers that be in this kind of guerrilla warfare type of strategy. And so, are there ways that people can avoid and work around and the facial recognition? Is there a guerrilla movement on the part of people to literally take these things down and yank these things down off the ground? And not that I'm promoting that. Of course, it's private property. My God, we don't want to talk about that. But that's what it seems like is the next step, is people start they start tearing,
I understand your
down.
Question. I understand your question. Humans are good enough at thwarting these kinds of movements that are being done to them and are designed to enslave them. I say they have been good at it, but given the way the world has been for the last few decades, the World War has started, right? The Third World War. It's an information war. And most of the world is still watching television and, buying into the narratives that are being thrown at them. And so we as a civilization are losing badly in terms of numbers. Even though more people are waking up at a faster rate than I think the AI had expected, it's still not enough. We haven't reached anywhere near critical mass. We need to reach critical mass as a civilization and as within countries and states, and more so in communities, before we can, have enough awareness and stop these things and even reverse them. I'd say that's number one. And the other aspect of this information war started decades ago. And I believe that especially Western societies, and now I'd say most of the world, has been neutered in terms of courage, in terms of independent thinking, through the onslaught of violence in video games, in television, and movies. And most of these violent films and movies on television, they have the big force of government in them. I don't believe government is that powerful, but through movies and through TV, people have been subdued. And I don't see the courage in human beings today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are scared. There's no doubt about it. They have been trained to be afraid. Whether it's a paper tiger or not remains to be seen. But they want to present this facade of strength and invincibility and omniscience and omnipresence that may, in fact, only be a ruse.
That's right.
So,
and we are powerful, right? We can just say, no, we don't want it. All we have to do as a local neighborhood says, we don't want a single LED light on our roads, and we don't want a single LED light in our downtown. That's it. End of story. We don't want a single camera.
Yeah. Well, they've done a pretty good job of convincing us of the carrots in order to swing the stick at us.
Right.
It seems as though the one paramount objective of people, the one delineating variable for them is safety. This idea of personal safety seems to be the one thing. So as long as I consider myself to be safe, whether it's financially safe, physically safe, then I'm going to abdicate whatever freedoms I may perceive to be,
lost,
previously endowed to me.
Right.
Pardon. So it's a big subject, and we're just starting to sink our teeth into it here. So it's really hard to kind of close. But if you can, give us some closing words here, whatever's kind of percolating to the top, Aman.
So what's being done in the world is blasphemy, and it is tyranny to the max that I can even conceive of. All the books I read in my life, all the tyrannical related movies I've seen in my life, what's coming is going to be a lot worse than anything that I'd imagined. But we can say no. We can empower ourselves by getting aware of what's going on, sharing that awareness, and just say, no, we are not going to accept this. We are not having it. And we are going to not enter this new matrix, which is going to be, I believe, the final matrix. So I think there's going to be some of us that are going to get through this. It's going to be really hard. There's going to be large populations of people in the world that are going to die in the process. However, I think there will be some people who will get through this alive and without entering this matrix. And the more people that do, the more danger the new matrix will be in.
Yeah. Well, then, Wolverines. That's all I can say. We've got to coalesce around a grassroots resistance, and like you say,
absolutely,
compliance equals complicity, and that's basically what it is. If you are compliant, you are complicit, and
that's right.
It's this resistance, individually and collectively, that's really ultimately the nut that has to be cracked. Well, Aman, thank you so much. Like I say, I'm going to get this out to as many people as I possibly can. And I am very, very grateful for having had you on today. And I hope that we can catch up again sometime down the road and revisit this and talk about new things as well and see how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We have a great bite in and great participation from business and governments. And at the moment we deal with 8 technologies, self-driving cars, I'll come back in a moment, drones, artificial intelligence, precision medicine, and so on. Now, this let's say, approach is so attractive that we have now the offer of governments like India, China, Japan, Israel, Sweden, to build a similar campus in their countries. I think it's so important, I come back to the 4th Industrial Revolution, to become aware what makes us human. And Eric Schmidt in Davos said, look, the next decade will be the fight between robots and humans. And I'm afraid robots will win.
The problem with the truth, usually, is that the truth is complicated and it's painful. No, I think maybe in a couple of decades when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored. That we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. Because really we haven't seen anything yet. I think the big process that's happening right now in the world is hacking human beings, the ability to hack humans, to understand deeply what's happening within you, what makes you go. And for that, the most important data is not what you read and who you meet and what you buy, it's what's happening inside your body. So we had these 2 big revolutions, the computer science revolution, or the infotech revolution, and the revolution in the biological sciences. And they are still separate, but they are about to merge. They are merging around, I would say, the biometric sensor. It's the thing, it's the gadget, it's the technology that converts biological data into digital data that can be analyzed by computers. And having the ability to really monitor people under the skin, this is the biggest game changer of all. Because this is the key for getting to know people better than they know themselves. And COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin, their body temperature. Like we walked in here, we had to go through a body temperature test.
Even in Israel, it has become a national security issue, right?
So again, I'm not against surveillance. It's an important tool, especially to fight epidemics. The question is, again, who is doing it and how? If you give it to the security service to do it, that's extremely dangerous. Yes, now they're using it to see whether you have the coronavirus. But exactly the same technology can determine what you think about the government. You know, anger is a biological phenomena just like disease. It's not some spiritual thing out there. It's a biological pattern in your body. With this kind of surveillance, I mean, you watch the big president, the big leader, gives a speech on television. The television could be monitoring you and knowing whether you're angry or not, just by analyzing the cues, the biological cues coming from your body. So, you know, people are now watching us online, all over the world, this conversation. Now, maybe even right now, the people who are watching us are being watched and analyzed. And, you know, the thing is, it's not just you're now watching this. The thing is, we know that you're watching this, and we also know how you feel. Are you angry about what you hear? Are you frightened? Are you bored? This is the kind of power that Stalin didn't have. You know, when Stalin gave a speech, everybody, of course, clapped their hand and smiled. Now, how do you know what they really think about Stalin? It's very difficult. You can't have a KGB agent following everybody all the time. Even if you do it, he's just watching your outside behavior. He doesn't really know what's happening in your mind. But in 10 years, the future Stalins of the 21st century, they could be watching the minds, the brains of all the population all the time, and also they will have the computing power to analyze all that. You know, it's not just having an agent following everybody all the time. The agent in Stalin's days writes a paper report, and you have these millions of paper reports piling up in Moscow. Somebody needs to read them, to analyze them. That's impossible. Now you don't need human agents. You don't need human analyzers. You just have a lot of sensors and an AI which analyzes it, and that's it. You have the worst totalitarian regime in history. And COVID is important because COVID legitimizes some of the crucial steps, even in democratic countries.
Jedes Mal, wenn eine Website uns auffordert, eine neue digitale Identität zu erstellen oder uns bequem über eine große Plattform anzumelden, haben wir in Wirklichkeit keine Ahnung, was eigentlich mit unseren Daten passiert. Und aus diesem Grund wird die Kommission demnächst eine sichere europäische digitale Identität vorschlagen. Eine, der wir vertrauen und die Bürgerinnen und Bürger überall in Europa nutzen können, um alles zu tun, vom Steuerzahlen bis zum Fahrradmieten. Eine Technologie, bei der wir selbst kontrollieren können, welche Daten ausgetauscht und wie sie verwendet werden.
Hello everyone, meet Lucy, student in psychology, and me, her digital ID wallet issued by the government to offer a wide range of identity services. In fact, I'm a handy way of proving and protecting her identity both online and face-to-face. Let's have a closer look at what I can do. I can help governments to better communicate with citizens. Right now, I'm reminding Lucy of the appointment she needs to schedule for her mandatory vaccination. Time to go to her exam. Lucy is a bit stressed out. I'm here to make it easy for her to prove she is the right candidate, with a quick and secure connection between her phone and the examiner's. Exam passed successfully. Quick stop at the doctor's before celebrating, and no time to lose. On the way, Lucy uses me to declare her passport lost. She needs it for her upcoming road trip. No issue. She can request an emergency digital passport without having to go to the authority office. I make official admin a lot smoother. And that's not all. I can also help Lucy request a birth certificate, pay her taxes, or prove who she is when onboarding to new services, such as opening a bank account. I allow Lucy to certify her healthcare coverage entitlement. She's able to decide whether to authorize the doctor to access her medical records or not, ensuring her control over her personal data. Lucy needs one more thing before being all set for her trip to Australia: renting a car. I help her share her driver's license credentials online, so that she doesn't have to wait hours in a queue to collect the car when she gets to Brisbane. The rental company benefits from secure and accurate information, and Lucy from a smooth experience. Lucy's friends are waiting for her inside the bar. To allow her to get in, I simply generate a QR code that proves Lucy is old enough, so she doesn't have to share all her ID details with the bar staff. So yes, I'm Lucy's best companion. I protect her identity and official credentials wherever she goes. I provide secured access to public and private services and allow her to have full control over her data privacy. In other words, I give the right access to the right data to the right person. I am also trusted by governments to best support countries' digital transformation, fight against ID fraud, and deliver smooth public services. I am the Thales Digital ID Wallet.
It's been a rough year for the NYPD. Crime is reaching record levels in the city, and today, the newest bot in blue was sent out to its first crime scene.
That thing is creepy.
Meet DigiDog, the newest member of the NYPD's Technical Assistance Response Unit. Yes, a robot dog that's hounding city streets, assisting its handlers in saving lives and protecting New York's finest.
It allows the NYPD to have eyes and ears and also talk to individuals in life-threatening situations. This allows them to use the least amount of force necessary to resolve that situation.
John Jay College professor Keith Taylor says robots like DigiDog are changing the way to police. And following a year of social unrest, Taylor predicts the 70-pound DigiDog, decked out with lights and cameras, will soon be utilized more often. And as the Robo-Pooch made its way back to a waiting patrol car, the NYPD says it's soon expected to come out of its test phase and hopefully earn a permanent spot on the force. In the Wakefield section of the Bronx, Richard Giacobas, Fox 5 News.
The European agricultural machinery industry is looking forward to 5G, as it should ensure a better resilience in the network and allow the integration of technologies with different needs. It is not only about general telecommunications anymore, but about different technologies working together for the same application, adapting automatically depending on the situation. However, it must be 5G in rural areas. Today, large parts of farming land still don't have wireless internet connection, impacting machines, farming productivity, and the farmer's family too. So infrastructure does matter, and good, reliable, and fast connectivity is key. Modern agricultural machinery need constant radio contact with other agricultural vehicles, with the farm, and with transmitting stations for accurate positioning data. The first stages of digitization already allowed precision agriculture to take off, reducing the use of agrochemicals and significantly improving harvest quantity and quality. But only with the additional features of 5G can many environmentally friendly precision farming processes fully become a reality, such as the precision application of inputs like see and spray crop protection, optimized fertilizer application, and better use of water. We will also need 5G to improve the uptime of the machines and lower the operating cost, or when human interaction is necessary for monitoring and controlling automated machinery fleets. Here are a few examples we're working on. With 5G, a drone can determine for the machine if there is an animal or a pedestrian or pest in the field, or if the ground is stable to drive on, or if it is the right time to harvest. Camera images can be analyzed in the cloud to control the nozzles of crop protection sprayers in real time. One driver may be sufficient to control several agricultural machines that will cooperate and optimize operations, such as unloading or platooning. We're talking about using image processing to save up to 80% on crop protection products under optimal conditions. The ultimate goal is optimized individual plant treatment, where each plant only gets what it needs when it needs it, thanks to artificial intelligent processes adapted for agriculture. In fact, the only way we can reach the ambitious goals we have for Europe is through the uptake of advanced machinery and solutions. And for that, we need 5G.
A blue sky Tennessee day. But there's a storm coming. Look a little closer and it's a city under siege. Piercing the air around the Fort Campbell base, a mob of drones on the hunt. There's nobody around here. The city's been constructed by a US military experimental unit to see how swarms of unmanned systems can storm urban environments. At least 250 drones and school bag-sized rovers, working with different levels of autonomy. They're looking for high-value items, but must work around hazards in the area. DARPA first invited tech teams onto this program in 2017. This is the final experiment. The idea is for swarms to gather intelligence for living, breathing troops from areas with tall buildings and poor lines of sight.
Praise our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, everyone. I have something else to show you guys. I'm currently in Savers. It's a thrift store. It's in Warwick, Rhode Island. And they just installed these new self-checkout registers. That's what it looks like. And every single register has this. It says placed list here. What is that? This is the mark of the beast technology, everyone. That's what it looks like.